straw.
It's Jim Csek. You're watching Kelowna Now. I'm here with the daily show that I've got going on the Need to Know. We're going to start off the election, obviously, because that's the hottest topic, and you get to vote tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So here's the things that the parties are offering. This is where they start handing out the candy or the pork or whatever Jason, I think, has called it, the pork. So EB's promising that they plan on building 300,000 homes for the middle class, and that's on government-owned land. They pledged to increase the vacancy and speculation tax on empty homes from 1% for residents and 3% for foreign owners starting in 2025. That's been a controversial one for many people. They also will prioritize building homes on public land. They will also exempt $10,000 of individual income from taxes every year, which translates to about an annual tax reduction for about $1,000 for most households, or about $500 for individuals. They will also, if they're reelected, open involuntary care facilities for those with overlapping addictions, mental illnesses, and brain injuries. They also promise to scrap BC's long-standing consumer carbon tax if the federal government does that. I guess that's if Pierre Poilievre forms government, and will instead shift the burden to big polluters. They will also increase job-protected leave for 27 weeks from the current 8 days for anybody with a major medical diagnosis such as cancer. They also aim to attract more healthcare workers with a new program for giving tuition loans for healthcare professionals in return for long-term BC residency guarantee. They've also promised immediate provisional licenses for Canadian trade care providers and licenses within 6 weeks of qualified foreign applicants from other approved places. On the other hand, the Conservatives are offering, John Rustad calls it the Rustad rebate. He plans to exempt rent and mortgage interest costs for income taxes beginning at $1,500 a month in 2026 and increasing to $3,000 by 2029. His party is calling it the largest housing tax cut in BC history. That does sound very large, doesn't it, Jason?
Yep.
Jason's back there listening. They're also pledging publicly funded partnerships with non-governmental health clinics and wait time guarantee for some surgical procedures that would see patients sent outside province for faster care. They're also promising to build a new children's hospital in Surrey, featuring a pediatric emergency room, an intensive care unit, a maternity ward, and women's health center. He also promises to end ICBC's monopoly on car insurance. I think a lot of people have been talking about that for a long time, and open the market to other providers to lower prices for consumers while modifying ICBC's no-fault insurance model, making it easier for people with life-altering injuries to seek redress in the courts. He also promises to scrap the provincial carbon tax completely. He also said he'll return 20% of BC's forests to First Nations, replace the current stumpage system, and end product tax and streamline the permitting process for the forest sector. And BC has the highest stumpage costs in North America. They've also promised to bring back plastic straws and cutlery and eliminate mandatory fees for grocery bags. Who doesn't love paying like all that money for a grocery bag? I just refuse straws at this point. I don't really want all that toxins from the paper-based glue straws. I'd rather go without a straw. The Green Party, on the other hand, is promising to maintain the carbon tax with or without a federal mandate. First No says she'll introduce a windfall profit tax on oil and gas companies. They also plan to include 6 visits for mental health professionals, such as psychologists under the MSP. They also will provide $1.5 billion annually to construct 26,000 new units on non-market housing each year. It includes a promise to create frameworks for BC's social and environmental performance instead of using GDP as a standard measurement. Her party will also increase social and disability insurance and wraparound support for youth aging out of care and combat poverty. They also promise to invest in climate action, renewable energy, and infrastructure, including $650 million annually for municipal infrastructure to support new housing and $250 million to expand childcare. I mean, that's all great. I don't think they're running a full slate to even form government. So, I mean, I guess if she has the ability to, like what Andrew Weaver did in the past, and push for some of those things. In other news, the BC Interior ER closes for the 17th time due to lack of doctors. We're seeing this over and over and over again. The one in Oliver, this is in Lillooet, the one in Oliver has closed over 35 times from January till now. We need more action on that for sure. In the 5 things you need to know this morning, details revealed about a potential multi-billion-dollar deal with tobacco firms. They're looking to pay out $15 billion in a settlement. When will the sugar companies be listed in here? I mean, tobacco's caused
Doesn't the tobacco company own the sugar company now?
Yeah, the damages caused by tobacco are unbelievable, but I would say sugar should be the next one on the list for companies to go after, all the sugar that's in all the processed foods and all that stuff. But that's just my thoughts.
Well, and how they trick you and change.
What's that?
How it's trickery. The names for 85 different types of sugar, basically.
There is, like, a lot of products will have on it, no sugar added.
Yeah.
And then there's a really cool tool, ChatGPT. You can actually upload the photo to it and say, how is this so sweet? And it'll say, well, because it's got this in it, and that's basically sugar, right? So there's so much sugar in processed foods. One of the really good things for people to do is to, if you can't pronounce what's in the product, don't eat it. And try to eat stuff that's like one ingredient, like an apple. I mean, I think that would be better than all these processed foods, right? And then the other thing is try to avoid the middle aisles when you're shopping. Just shop the perimeter of the store. That'd be a good way. Russia is promoting people to have children. They're actually going to penalize people if anybody caught not promoting lifestyle, like anybody that's saying that you shouldn't have children. So there's going to be a fine for that. I mean, Canada has a decreasing fertility rate, as many Western nations do. We need to put more of a focus on families as opposed to all this stuff out there that talks about no families.
You know, on one hand, you hear people concerned about too much population, but on the other hand, if you look a little closer, it looks like there is potential population collapse in our future in many countries.
Most of the Western nations are on a population decline. If it wasn't for immigration, they'd be on a steady decline. Because when I come from a family of 7, we have 3 children, but it's getting more and more unusual for people to even have kids because number one reason they can't afford it.
Well, you needed 7 because half of them weren't going to make it back then, or some percentage, right? And you had a farm usually, so you needed some labor. And so there's a lot of reasons why I think
all ours made it, and we didn't have a farm. So.
There you go.
So yeah, so it just becomes tougher and tougher to afford to have children. That's why we have to do more for our young people. 100%, we need to do more for our young people. There needs to be some change. So here's your chance. There's an election. You can vote for change, right? You can vote for a better tomorrow. Gold. Gold hit a record this morning, over $2,700 an ounce US, which is $37.47 Canadian. And I just to put it in perspective, if you bought a house in Kelowna in 1998, say worth about $280,000. Today, that house, property values have dropped a little bit. It'd be worth around 1.5 to 1.9, I guess. But if that same amount of gold at that time, gold was worth about $460 Canadian. Today, it's worth $37.47 Canadian. So that same amount of gold, 600 ounces, is worth $2.25 million, right? So gold, definitely a stable, you can see from the chart there, fairly stable, increasing in value, but also shows you how much devaluation there is in the dollar. Assets tend to hold their value, whereas the dollar continues to be eroded because governments actually have a target rate of inflation. They have a target rate of around 2%, so they're actually eroding that dollar at 2% a year. Whereas, we've seen some big erosion in the past couple of years with grocery prices and all that. Yeah, so we've got a video to show you that because we want to do a little bit of AI in this every morning too, and so we got some video of Optimus. They shared this, Tesla shared this the other day, and Optimus is actually walking around and walking upstairs. You want to run that video, Jason?
Nope.
We're going to try and run that video.
It was working.
It was working. Well, we'll keep trying, and then we'll just talk about the next thing. You got it? There you go. So you can see Optimus is walking around there, and it's all mapped out. And then the robots do share that vision with each other. So all the robots that are walking around in that factory, Tesla factory, are sharing that. And this is the robot backing in and charging itself when it gets low. And then it goes back to work after it's charged itself. And it is stacking stuff and then lifting stuff and carrying stuff. This is about 11 kilos. So about, 23, 24 pounds.
Looks a little shaky, I got to say.
Looks pretty impressive to me.
It is
but
impressive, but it's still.
And it's walking up the stairs, right? So maybe it walks up the stairs to wake you up.
That looks like a Biden walk to me.
Wow. And there you go. So it's handing out the refreshments to the Tesla staff, right? You get this, one each. That's it. So maybe that's what the future is going to look like, where the robots say, hey, this is what you get to eat today. But pretty impressive, though. This one's connected, though, to, it must be to power or something, right? So there you go. That's a new technology we're trying to work on. We're actually going to try and flip that in there. And then the last thing I end with is the Future is Autonomous, the big robo-taxi event that happened on 10/10. That's a robo-van. A big shout out to Gord Lovegrove there, if you're listening. He wants to do that hydrogen train here in the Okanagan Valley. May not need it with a robo-van, right? I don't know if you've seen the inside of that robo-van. It's pretty impressive. And that is a fully autonomous van that's supposed to be ready in a couple years. So, and that'll be fully electric, as will that Cybercar there. No steering wheel, no pedals, or nothing in either one of those vehicles. Fully autonomous. So, and fully autonomous vehicles, they say will start rolling out in some of the U.S. states next year with the Model Y and the Model 3. So Texas and California look like be one of the first ones. They already have fully autonomous vehicles in California with Waymo and Cruise. So it's not like this is pie in the sky. This is already happening. So there you have it. That's the need to know for today. And the big news, though, is the election. The election happens tomorrow all the way from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be here on the desk here starting at 6 p.m. with the results. I'll have Renee Merrifield will be with me. We'll go through riding by riding, especially with a focus on the Central Okanagan, but we'll be here until a decision is made. And we have a new government a new government could be the NDP, it could be the Conservatives, or it could be a blend. And we have a bunch of independents, strong independents running as well. So it'll be an interesting night for sure. Renee will have the backstory on most of these candidates because she's been working in the ledge all these years and she's not running this year. So she's a perfect person to have with me and talk about. We have a full team out there. Jason will be running the desk. He's got all kinds of eye candy that he's going to show off on, I'm pumping him up there. Eye candy to show off tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock sharp. Anything you want to add, Jason? You want to go out with that election video? Or?
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.